All right, check this out. There's some stuff to talk about here, and when they said a lot of stuff that made me think that it's gonna be hard just to talk about what we saw in a vacuum, because they say there's 256 changes in this patch coming up, 28 buffs to Northern Realms, or complete changes to Northern Realms. Something that Nilfgaard maybe got like 10 cards. They got the reveal stuff changed, and not even all of their reveal cards. Northern Realms is getting 28 changes, like fundamental changes to the cards. That is like, I mean, they're just like adding a new faction within a faction that already exists, just replacing all the cards that aren't. So I'm assuming the play rate on these cards were abysmally low, and I can predict that some of the cards that will be changed. Taller, even know what Taller does. I mean, I got a lot of cool comments. On my video, my Mean Machines video, talking about Taller and how he can store charges and move the charges around, and it was kind of cool because it works with Bloody Flail, and like it was a cool idea. I like the idea, but but we don't even know if Taller is changing. Maybe he doesn't change. Who knows? But we'll see. So let's talk about the stuff. So yeah, they're changing a lot of stuff. They're also working on like some deck builder changes. Now you don't have to search comma space mage to find mages, which is a trick I just found out like 2 days ago. So I wasn't sitting on that revolutionary item right there. But there's going to be more excuses to play mages, perhaps because these mages are changing for better or for worse. We're not really sure. Damn Sorceress got a big change, and I don't know how I feel about it. But we'll see. And our ambassador is about to have his mind blown. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all going to be pretty excited about this. So then we started to see the changes to some of the Northern Realms cards. So from what I understand, we're just going to be losing cards. So it's hard to even think about how these cards interact with other cards that we might know from the faction, understanding that some of these cards are just going to cease to exist. So we have to look at these cards in a vacuum, which is strange because these are faction cards, a faction that I would think that I would know pretty well. So now we have a new thinning card for Northern Realms. Gone are the days of Blue Stripe Commando being the only way to thin a card from your deck, like a bronze card. Now we actually have a pretty reasonable, pretty easy to achieve thinning card here at 5 provisions. So they have one at 5 and 6, which is a little steep, but this is supposed to be the greedy faction, so I'll accept it. Because I think Blue Stripe Scouts are not changing, and we have confirmation of that based on the next card. So there's support for that card as well, which I love, by the way. So we have Dun Banner, which is great. So whenever this 5 provision point, 3 strength unit receives a boost, summon a copy of it from your deck to this row. So it's whenever this card receives a boost. So that's great for thinning. But keep in mind that this also works with Blue Stripe Scout. You play Blue Stripe Scout on this card, and then you boost it, and then another copy comes out. So it works. It's just another card that works with Blue Stripe Scout. And I certainly hope Blue Stripe Scout doesn't change, because that's a card that didn't have, it didn't have its effect built into its provision cost. It was still a 4 for 4. It had a really strong effect as well. So that's a card I think that was always up to a good standard. Duran27 saying Drog is looking automatically buffed now. I wonder what they will do to Revenants. Don't see those staying the same. Well, they said that there were no nerfs. Only changes. So we're assuming that Revenants stop being Revenants? I don't think so. I think Revenants are actually pretty well powered. They've always felt like very competitive cards for the faction. Most competitive Northern Realm decks use Revenants. So I don't think that I would be surprised if Revenants got changed. There were really, really cool cards in the faction. They would have to have predicted there would be an extreme problem with that card. But how is it Kikamor Warrior is not that different, and they just made that card. You have to have a board for it. You have to set up. I don't know, man. I think the card stays the same. I don't think it gets buffed or nerfed. I think it stays the same, but we'll see. I think Ada will be one of the leaders they change. I mean, Ada's ability is pretty good, but it is pretty vanilla. Maybe they make it cooler, but they still make her control. I don't know what they want to do. I don't know what their goals are for. I mean, are they going to have this warfare leader now? They already have an inspire leader. Meave is the inspire leader. Full test also boosts, so that's important as well. So like there's 2 inspire leaders, but is there going to be a warfare leader? You would imagine Demavend would be that leader, but maybe just because his ability doesn't change, he just has more application to use it, more opportunities to use it, because these units are looking like they're a lot stronger. Vess is a good example. So let's talk about how Vess has changed. Vess is now an 8 provision point, 5 strength unit. Still the same package though, but she only damages a unit by 2, but she still gives a unit zeal on order. So what's so great about this card is that she is far more resilient and her ability is going to go off more often on average. Also, she's cheaper to include. So if you really liked her for giving zeal, you are just better off. A lot of the time, you just put Vess in your deck because she still hits for 4 currently on live servers, and then you just be happy to run something else that might benefit from zeal. But really, Vess is going to do a lot of heavy lifting for you with that 4 point of removal. But her ability has always encouraged you to play her earlier so you can play something that she can give zeal to. Now you're more encouraged to do that. You get 7 points of value up front, and then you get the zeal, and your opponent has to either lock or remove a 5 strength unit to stop the zeal, which is not a game-breaking thing to stop, but is a really bad thing to have available. So, I mean, your opponent is really going to have to make a decision on how they deal with Vess, because Vess, they took the reach away from her, but they didn't roll lock her, so she can't just be moved. She must be locked or removed, and they increased her strength. So they protected her from 2 of the things that made her vulnerable. The fact that she was easy to remove, and the fact that she had reach, and I guess the fact that she had a ping that was so valuable that you didn't want to play her early. Now she's all up in your face, just like her card is. She's all up in your face. So this card is not a strict buff, but I think that it's just going to feel very good to run this card almost all the time in Northern Realms. I think she's a very good card now. And then we start seeing some of the lower ends of decks for Northern Realms. What Northern Realms classically had was Damn Sorceress, which was a really good card. I say was, because that card got changed as well. But Damn Sorceress, I mean, it's changed completely. It's not even in the 4 slot anymore, so it doesn't exist as an option at the 4 slot. But Adurnian Mauler is really interesting because it's a card that triggers Arbalest. It's a card that triggers anything that cares about order. It does do damage, so it increases your reach on the board, and that's really important for any card. One of the reasons why I love Dimon Longship, Arena and Draga, even like Brienne and Ulrich, like anything that gives you this extra reach on the board is good. And this is a card that does this at a very resilient state, and it actually can be portaled out. Plus, it's also a soldier. So this really feels like Svalbard Ravager's level of like something I'm pretty down with. This card is a great card. It is a great card that's just very realistic for anything that cares about humans, soldiers, orders, reach of damage, which I think most decks will care about, and anything that offers more portal options. People like Portal. CDPR knows people love Portal. They've changed cards for Portal that have made Portal more playable, and they've seen play rates rise. I don't know, but I know Portal is great. I love Portal. And then they bounce right back up to a high power gold, so they don't really build a narrative for these bronzes, really, except for maybe the shield stuff later. But I do actually, you know what, I'm lying. This is a great narrative. This is a great narrative with Vess. Roache Merciless now completely different, no longer a charge-based card, no longer a seize card, just a different card. That card is gone. Northern Realms, as far as I know, does not have a card that seizes anymore. And this does change some meme potential with something like Demavend. But I think overall, you should be pretty happy about this card, because this card is tasty with flavor, very strong card. I love this card. This is the new Vernon Roach Merciless, 11 provisions for a 5 strength unit. On deploy, damages an enemy unit by 2. On death blow, gains zeal with the order of spawning a Blue Stripes commando on the same row. So once again, much like Vess, 7 points up front, and if you hit the death blow, it's going to do its effect right away. And you see Blue Stripe commando. Provision-wise, we don't know if it's changed, but we can see effect-wise, it is still a 4-strength unit that does what it does. So we know Blue Stripes Commando is not changing, not buffed, not changed, unless the provisions have changed. But we can't see that from this tooltip. Sneaky, sneaky. So I would imagine that this effect is still good enough to be at 6. And if Northern Realms is going to be the greedy faction, I believe that, much like Casino Bouncers, this is a really good thinning card. It's probably going to stay there. Plus, Full Test loves this card. But the fact that it spawns a Blue Stripes Commando, any card that gives you an extra commando that pushes me away from running Operator, I'm happy. So this gives you an extra commando. We already know Northern Realms loves that. The commando combos, Pavetta, Drog, so good. running a traveling merchant, anything that draws you a card, Calantha draws you a card as well. You get that extra commando, you're dropping 6 humans on the board, draw comes out, and it's party time. And this guy actually helps you start things off by not even requiring a blue stripe commando in your hand. But it's different than a Dahlia, but still gives you the same flexibility as a Dahlia. And it's just stronger on play than a Dahlia. It's just 7 points for an effect that's very similar, that if you wanted to run a deck that cares about commandos, you might just cut a Dahlia altogether and run this bad boy. This card is just a powerhouse card. I love it. I love this card. It works with Vess, because Vess gives the commando zeal. They said that on the video. I love that. Also, Vess might have already brought something worth removing down to 2 anyway, so Vess is priming Merciless to come in and completely swing the round around early on. It's super good. Also, late game, if you've pavetted but you don't have a draw, Merciless comes down, you zeal out the commando, and then you zeal out the commandos. With Full Test, if you have 2 charges, if you just need that short round haymaker, that's what this card is going to give you. Play Portal with Maulers, can remove something. Yeah, it's actually good. You know, honestly, I had this cheesy, completely expensive, hardly worth it combo with Henselt and the old Eternian Mauler, where you would Henselt out the Eternian Mauler, and then you would be able to remove anything because they had that crazy ping, and they were both ready. Now you can just do that with Portal. It's not as strong, but it's still pretty good. Also, Henselt just more valuable for other things, obviously. The Eternian Mauler used to be a 7 provision point bronze. I don't know. And then it had reach 1, so you could just play around it. So it wasn't good. It wasn't good, but it was still interesting. But now Eternian Mauler, actually that's a playable strategy on a lower scale. Good. It's good. You're making a note here. Huge success. First Portal Ambassador, Ishak, how you doing? 5 straightforward nerfs, they're saying. 5 or 6. And I imagine one of those is probably Syndicate, but maybe 2 or 3. Would anybody be like, oh no, they nerfed Witch Hunter Executioner and what's the other one that really pisses me off? Not Philippa. Ewald is pretty good. Philippa maybe gets a strength nerf. I would be surprised. I don't know if they nerf the effect. I feel like CD Projekt Red now has they can really stand by this. They're like, no, we're increasing power. One of the most Philippa is such a controversial card. I would say Witch Hunter Executioner and Ewald are less controversial. They're just like, God damn, this card's strong. Stop it. But Philippa's like, you see it coming. I don't know. At least you see it coming. Shoutouts to my opponent who stole my Keltullus and lost, by the way, in my video. If you haven't seen the videos lately, my opponent has this insane steal with Keltullus with Philippa, and then Keltullus proceeds to fucking wreck him. It's such a great highlight. Check out my shit if you haven't watched it. I really work hard on it. And I know a lot of you do check it out, and you do and you do subscribe, and I love you for it. C should remain with Nilfgaard. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Northern Realms doesn't need C's. They don't do anything with it. So it's fine if you just want to give me a good card otherwise. Demoven change leaders. Maybe they give him a limited amount of charges and they give him boosting potential. Because if they want to make Inspire a thing, look at Syndicate. Every leader has coins attached to it. Does anybody have a problem with that? No. So maybe everything in Northern Realms has a boost attached to it. Right now, only 4 of the 6 Northern Realm leaders do have a boost attached to them. Demoven could just add a boost to his effect and give him maybe a limited amount of charges, but a respectable amount of charges. Might be okay. Ada, I feel like flavor-wise doesn't need to boost, but if they wanted to give a boost to her damaging effect, or some other reason to maybe encourage to play her earlier and not just make her a one-trick with Hubert. I mean, I just want to see that. I think the Hubert one-trick is just very uninspired, and I'm not just saying that for the pun. I just think that maybe if they want to move away from that and just make other cool things, I'd be okay with that. But I think that Hubert's effect of taking advantage of how much damage you're doing, that's a fine effect. But we'll see. Aridin and Dema have to be leaders getting changed. Morvran really seems like he's underpowered with what he can do. Yes, he protects engines, and yes, he has an ability that pays off later, but he value-wise seems not that good because his best combo is so expensive, like Vilgefort's Tibor stuff. All that stuff is so expensive to run. For it to only have a cool effect but that low, you need to really make him high provision, crazy high. Because it's just if you want to make a leader work with an expensive combo, either give it I mean, you kind of really only ever want to get the most value from that combo. So you need to afford, you need to make Morvan afford to be able to play his leader ability early and put that thing on top of the deck and make use of it and protect those engines and win round one, because the quality of the cards you draw are higher because you have a bigger salary cap, right? But I'm scared of that too at the same time. I don't know why higher provisions scare me, but that's exactly what you want out of high provisions. You want a really meh ability, but you want there to be a very specific way you can take advantage of that at a really high, like Ethna and Scorch. Really high cap. Scorch is an expensive card, but boy, can Ethna scorch you. That's like kind of what I feel like Morvan should have. Right now, his ability is like Vilgefort's Tibor is like, what is that, like 19 points for a pretty meh combo, and you have 6 points to spend early on. I don't know. I haven't played Morvan very much. It just seems like they say 256 buffs. I mean, like, fuck, man, everything changes. Everything changes. Morvan gets like, I don't know, 7 new overpowered soldiers. Changes everything, right? Not overpowered. Hopefully no overpowered. But then 3.2 hits at the end of August, and then they balance for the tournaments. Oh, baby. That's going to be so good. The tournament's going to be like ready, right? They let Syndicate come out. They fixed it. Then they're going to have this patch that's going to be like just a freak show probably for like a whole month. And then they're going to balance that. And then the tournaments occur. Ooh, baby. I'm ready. And they said they're going to run down the streets going crazy for what's coming out in the next expansion. I can't even imagine what that is. Gwent excites me. I did stand on my chair when they said Crew was coming back. But can we talk about Kyra Metz finally? Oh my god, it's been on the screen for a million years. 10 provision points for a 7 strength human mage. On deploy, give adjacent unit vitality for a duration equal to each of their base powers. So, once again, a greedy card, but boy is this a tempo card. All you need is 2 units on the board, and you're happy to play this pretty much any time. Especially if it's a Trident Infantry, or something that needs to be inspired, or Anna Strenger, or whatever. Basically, your mind can really run away with this one, because you're already going to places that make the most sense. All the things that care about being boosted. Yes. Tried him. Nathaniel Pastodi. All right, let's go. But we haven't even seen the buffs. We've barely even seen this Inspire keyword. That can be such a huge deal. We've already seen the Lyrian Landsknecht. Cares about being boosted. So this is already good in our minds, but it's even better because we don't know how much better this card can be. But it's really going to be about the options of this card being good. The reason why coins are so awesome is because you can spend those coins on so many different things. There's so much flexibility on what you can use those carryover untouchable points for. Northern Realms doesn't look like they're going to be having the untouchable points, but it looks like you're going to be able to play very well with things that boost other things. That flexibility is going to be important for cards that feel kind of dead later. You don't want that. Northern Realms had too many of those things. They're trying to ebb away from that. I like it. And they're making Kyra Metz a strong card. 7 strength. Good God. That means I have a 7 strength Revenant in the graveyard. That means I can Necromancy a 7 strength Revenant from the graveyard when I convert this with Drog. It means it's good. It means it's good. And I'm encouraged to play this early. I think the Drog decks are going to be pretty strong. And why don't we just make more cards that boost? The Temerian Drummer, a miniature Anna Strenger, probably appropriately priced at 6. When you drop this on the board, it's going to get you a lot of value, and the potential and the ceiling is it's as limited to the amount of turns, right? So this card is very good. I mean, a one of, easily a one of, right? Why would you not play this as a one of? You're just going to have so many cards that care about it. Now, the Trebuchet, the Reinforced Trebuchet, when it was 6 strength, it wasn't played very often, but you maybe would play 1 every now and then in some decks, but it had a whole bunch of restrictions. This card's a human, and it's a soldier, and it boosts every turn a unit by the right, so it's controllable what it's boosting. It boosts right away. You create the condition. Oh, it's definitely worth. It's definitely worth. Because Anna was buffed, she becomes a earlier game card or an earlier round card because she will buff right away, and that early buff is only concerned about one thing, so you don't feel about wasting value, let's say if Meeve's buff isn't available for you. So the Temerian Drummer and Anna Strenger becoming more tempo-based cards, earlier round cards, less often to be dead, less slow cards, and Anna Stringer becomes more attractive to play later because you have these mini Stringers with the Temerian Drummer. Also, this card throws back to the original Temerian Drummer, if you just weren't already in love with this change enough. Kyra looks insane. Muzzle nerf, gotta be incoming. Well, if they just make everything too big, I don't know. Muzzle is probably... I don't know. Muzzle's an annoying card, but it's a strong card. It feels appropriately provisioned. I don't know. They say special cards. They want special cards to be okay. And the way that Muzzle locks is that it does give you a body, but it doesn't give you the extra effect of whatever you're taking. So, Johnny Nats. John Natalis is now a new tutor for the deck, going back to being a tutor. So this is actually kind of cool of me, because he goes back to being like a card he was before Homecoming. Before, he used to play a tactic card when Northern Realms care about tactics. But tactics are a Nilfgaard thing now, so they have to make a new thing for Northern Realms that's like tactics. I don't care what you call it. It says Warcraft on the screen. It's Warfare Live. Thank you, God, for not taking another thing from Warcraft. But we have, because they already have the arena mode, right? They could have called that something else. They used to have Worthy Opponent for so long. Okay, so I'm just saying, thank you. But it's an 8 provision point tutor, and I don't think that John Natalis is going to be just a better tutor than anybody else. I think that all the tutors are going to get a cost reduction, which means that maybe all tutoring cards are getting cost reduction. How many tutoring cards in the game are there? We know there's 256 changes coming with the patch. There's a lot of cards to tutor, so we could say like 10 cards? That's 10 of the 256? You know, you got Furco, you got Mano, whatever. You got them all. That means maybe Alzur's Double Cross, maybe Marching Orders. A Marching Order buff means a buff to Ardal. They say Reinforcements is a Warfare card, so that's actually really good, because Reinforcements was one of the cards that I wanted to tutor the most, because it is so applicable all the time to so many cards. Reinforcements is one of my favorite cards in Northern Realms and one of my favorite effects in the game, copying a bronze unit. We finally have a tutor for it again. I'm very happy. Johnny Nats, easily going to be one of my favorite cards. Also, John Natalis, much like most tutors being low strength, also with bronze units looking like they're going to have a higher strength threshold on their bodies, makes me think that Marching Orders, which may not be a Warfare deck, but could actually be dual. What if they dual tagged Marching Orders to be Warfare and a tactic? Wouldn't that be dope? We know we don't have Alzur's Double Cross, and Kyra has changed, so we maybe aren't tutoring spells anymore, but tutoring out a Warfare card and it being Marching Orders, or Marching Orders pulling Natalis and then pulling a Warfare card out, like the old days you used to be able to tutor tutors. Seems more likely to happen here with John Natalis, because, I mean, I like tutoring. Northern Realms has always been really good at tutoring, right? That was always their old identity. I don't know if they're in love with that anymore, but I will say that it seems more possible if the idea of cheaper tutors is out there, right? And now something special. Kyra looks auto-include right here. Fluffy Froger in the chat. Jurlat, the professional, saying NR needs more Powerhouse Gold, so I'm happy with these. Devious Vagabond, Kyra, more playability. Yep. Chadwick Hosman. The biggest problem with the faction is that all of its sub-archetypes with no full archetypes. So too many subs and not enough full ones. Sure. Executioner and the Damage Brothers should be nerfed. Well, Durant, we know there's targeted nerfs. It's possible. I don't think Philippa's going to be the big nerf, but they might nerf the body. 15 years! Rajik in the chat, speaking of damn sorceress, we actually wanted to keep her, but with an ability like that, it was very difficult not to make her too strong. The ability being a 3 ping. Also, if you are building a board with reach, yeah, it could be strong. Compare her to a Durnian Mauler, even giving her 1 more power would put her above most bronzes. Fair enough. I thought she wasn't going to get changed with that effect, but I see where you're going, and I think that building reach on the board, I like that direction. I always like the idea of an army building game caring about the army you're building on the board. The stronger your army is on the board, the more you can do to your opponent. The more encouraged your opponent is to keep your army down, the more encouraged they are to spend removal early in the game, less encouraged they are just to have this crazy high tempo removal that seems to take over games late. Overall, I like that direction, and I hope the game shifts that way. Because I don't like just playing... I mean, the idea is, like, Skellig has always been doing that, getting tons of value on their bronze and then just smashing their golds later because they didn't have to spend them. Northern Realms looks like maybe it's going to go that direction. So, I mean... different archetypes will get there. More resilient archetypes. A shield archetype is absolutely resilient, and these new shield cards, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but they're basically like Death Wish. You can't hit it. You don't want to hit it. You have reason to want to remove the shield, but you don't want to, really. And also random pings. Oh my god, the shield archetype's going to be so dope, dudes. It's going to be so good. Ragnar tier 1. Bloody Flail. This is a really interesting change because this means that Northern Realms actually loses their unique artifact. So will they get another one? First of all, we're not really sure, but Bloody Flail used to be a really unique artifact. It had some really interesting interactions with Visegerd, Taller, of course, Demavend, always building up those stacks, Priscilla, Aretusa Adept. It had a lot of potential, but the thing is, the potential, I think, is the scary thing about this card, and that's where memes become scary, when you actually bring up the power level of a faction that was built in with this weird potential for just clobbering things. So one of the reasons why, when I see this change, I think that Kian is also changing, because Kian also has a pretty out there ability that is capable of just wiping out entire boards. So we see Bloody Flail change and we see Full Test Pride change. So I think the writing is on the wall for Kian. But we'll talk about this card right now. A 6 provision special card, Bloody Flail. Give an enemy unit bleeding for 8 turns. That's pretty good. For each soldier you control, decrease the bleeding duration and increase the damage. So if you have 2 soldiers on the board, this deals 6 damage and bleeds for 2. Since Northern Realms doesn't have a lot of things that care about bleeds, I think that this just seems like just kind of a fair, like just a really good warfare card. Something you're fine to have Natalis pull if you just want to just have that play. Good thinning. Maybe something that can, there's going to be, it's a warfare card, right? So we're seeing this inspired keyword. So, we're seeing this resupply keyword that it basically intimidates for warfare, but instead of just boosting, it causes these additional effects. So this card at face value is already passing the test for me. For its interest factor, it does care about things, right? It cares about, it's a removal card, and it also cares about soldiers as well. So your board state matters. So it actually is a thinking card a little bit as well. Plus, any bleed by a higher duration of 2 is, well, higher duration of 1. When a pass is coming up, is super important because your opponent has to deal with the play and then the pass tick. So you get that value early. I like all of those things. Like, a lot of crimes are pretty good. And it's possible we're probably going to get some bronze warfare cards. Like, we kind of have to if they're building on the same concept. So with bronze warfare cards, this becomes even more interesting because then this becomes just one of many things that you're using. Like, you know, Syndicate loves coins, but they don't know if they want to do a dip, or if they want to do an eavesdrop, or they want to do a shakedown, or they just want to swindle for a high roll, if they need to slander as well. Like, they have a lot of options on how they're going to build their later plays, their strategy, their carryover, however they're going to do it. Northern Realms likely is going to get some infusion of that. So it's possible we see like new cards altogether, new artwork. I don't know. I'm pretty pumped for it though. Pretty pumped. We'll see. We'll see. I was going to click this here, this arrow, which is not a real arrow in my library. All right, so this stream did not come without a fair share of surprise. I mean, it's funny. It's a surprise, and then it's like, well, let me think about this a little bit more. Let me actually think about the philosophy. Let me see how they're going to be giving Northern Realms really, really good cards without busting them wide open. So they're targeting some pretty busted cards. They're targeting Vess. They're targeting Full Test Pride. They're targeting Vernon Roach, and they're probably targeting Kian. And they're targeting Bloody Flail. They're targeting the cards that can run away with a game, but they're making these cards more mid-range and interesting cards. This one is actually quite a good card. Full Test Pride of old damaged all units at the same power by 1. One of the best and strongest effects, and one of the most fun effects to really have pop off, and just really just like one of the greatest highlight effects. It's a really strong effect, and I don't know if Northern Realms will ever get it back. It might be gone forever this time. It used to be on bronze cards, upgraded to a gold ability in Homecoming, now appears to be missing in action. But let's talk about this new card, this new Full Test Pride. It's got a new tag, Siege Engine. It's an 8 provision point, 6 strength Siege Engine with Zeal. And on order, if it's on the melee row, it damages a unit by 1, has a charge, but if it's crewed, crews are back, my friends. If it's crewed, it damages by 2 on Zeal. So that means that if there's a crewman next to it, it says right there, trigger this ability if this unit is between 2 soldiers. So this is not a crewman tag. This is a more generic overarching tag. So this means that everything is a crewman. So you don't have to build in crewmen if you don't like some crewmen or you think that crewmen require too many cards that you don't like. Well, how about we just make every card that's kind of good, or just give you like 50 cards you can play that care about this card. That's really good. So this is it does require 2 units and it requires adjacency. So this means that spies can screw it up and removal can screw it up. But the card itself is quite good, and 6 strength is a very high strength on an engine that can work right away. So it's 7 up front, and it's a problem. So this seems like a botchling level of good. It seems like botchling level of good, and even, it's scary, right? It can't heal itself, but it's easier to keep alive. It's a good card. It's just a good card, and it's going to care about siege like cards that care about. Like the idea that it gets an extra tag that cards will care about means that this card is already better than it looks, and we don't know why. So if it already looks good, get ready for it to be even better. So that's pretty exciting, I guess. Still weak to movement, sure. But when you get the upfront value, you feel a lot better about it. That's the thing about Northern Realms. Their upfront value was so damn low that when you were disrupted, you were like just losing turns. Losing just mountains of points. They want to just move some of that mountain into the cards themselves. So Northern Realms can still have a mountain of points, but they also aren't left with like ashes if your opponent can interact with it, right? I don't think it's stupid, Synergy God. Like, would you be mad if Siggy Reuven was row-locked? Because it's like kind of like that. Like, Siggy Reuven is a really expensive card that does something right away and also is a threat on the board afterwards. But he's weak as hell. I don't know if that's really a good comparison, but that's all I got right now. It's 40 degrees in this room, my dudes. All right, let's talk about Siege Master. Another completely changed card. This card no longer cares about giving charges, giving zeal, or whatever it used to do. I mean, God, this card has seen so many different cards. But this one is now a 5 provision point, 3 strength, human soldier. And we know that soldiers now matter across the board. You don't need a soldier deck. You could run a soldier deck, but you don't need a soldier deck. Your soldier deck is now also good for machines. I almost want to re-record that because of how my voice went up, but I think I'm going to keep it in because I know YouTube will love that shit. You could run a soldier deck. So on deploy, the Siege Master boosts an allied unit by 2. Great. On resupply, adjacent siege engines also get boosted. So this is a pretty restrictive placement category, but I think that for what it's worth, this card is very on par with Crown Splitter Thug, which is a very reasonable Syndicate bronze. Problem with Syndicate is that they have unreasonable bronzes. So I feel like if we remove unreasonable bronzes from the game, this is very on par for a pretty good 5-point card. This card has decent value. If this was a 4 provision point card, it would be very, very good because it does have a soft ceiling. What they're doing with these cards is giving soft ceilings to these cards, but they're making the potential more limitless for the 5-point cards. But I will just say that this card checks a lot of boxes for the faction. And it could be a staple, but I think it might be a cut if you have other stuff that's better. Just like Crown Splitter Thug feels. I feel like it's just very on par with that card. Haplar saying in the chat, I love the new paradigm of provision points equals value plus extra if you have synergy. We know CD Projekt Red listens to feedback, and they could have gotten a lot of feedback over the last seasonal events, like, why was this season great? Why was this season not great? Oh man, I love Vitality and Bleed. I want more cards that do that. I love playing big cards. I love playing 2 engines at once because when engines survive, it actually feels like I have a chance. I love playing big power cards. If they can find a way to add these things to the game without hurting the game, why not give the things that are fun? Let's make the game as fun as possible, my dudes. One of the ways they're moving forward with that is by adding a keyword that everybody says, this is a fun and unique mechanic. Can we please have more for this faction that only has it on 3 cards? This is the new Lyrian Land Sknecht. This is Sknecht, the Land Sknecht. Sknecht 4. 5 provision point, 3 strength, human soldier with an order of damage a unit by 1, but an inspired order of damage a unit by 3. So not only is this just a card that they just slapped formation on, nah. They give you a new keyword as well. So this card has formation. We know what that does. It gives a unit zeal if it's on the front row or a boost of 1 if it's on the back row. But if this card is boosted, much like Prince Ansei's, which we can assume that the tooltip for Prince Ansei's has changed to say inspired, duel it instead. This now damages it by 3 instead. So it's a mini Prince Ansei's. That's pretty dope because Prince Ansei's is really strong. Plus, this is a 3 ping and it looks like Northern Realms. Now this is the new 3 ping. This is going to be replacing Damn Sorceress for that extra kind of I gotta kill this shit card on the bronze level. Meave's gonna smack. I'll stop saying it just how it is. Meave gonna smack. So I mean, if reworks and more powerful cards and buffs weren't enough for you, how about a strict upgrade? And I don't get to say this that many times. I don't get to say this about many cards because usually people don't have a lot of options to say something like strictly better. Strictly better is something you can only say when a card is the same in every way, but also improved. In that it is better, you'd run it in all of the situations you would have ran it before, but it is even better than it was before. This is what's happening right now with Anna. A buff that someone you probably know in the chat is saying, I love your name, because when I say your name in the chat, it actually sounds like I'm not being clear, that you could just be Trinut, the new Syndicate faction ambassador. Shout out to my boy Trinut, by the way. Because Trinut is someone you probably know, especially today. But anyway, someone you probably know in the chat saying maybe buffing Anna was overkill. Boy, oh boy. This card. I guess they wanted to make sure that this card was much better than the Temerian Drummer. So they had to just make it like a Temerian Drummer, but better in a lot of ways. So Anna's the same card. When she's boosted, she boosts adjacent units by 1. So when she's inspired, so that's the new keyword. This is the thing that we like for Northern Realms. Boosting is going to be the thing. It's going to be a shared thing between scoia'tael, I guess, and Northern Realms. But Northern Realms is going to do it because the way scoia'tael does it is also greedy. Boosting is generally greedy because you are trying to make sure that the things that you're going to get the big points from, you got to make sure they live. And you're investing a lot into that. So that is kind of where greed is. And they said this on this, if you want to know what Austria meant by, we want this to feel more greedy, it's about taking those risks. But Anna, they removed risk. Because she also boosts the unit on the right by 1 if she's not even boosted. Have fun with this one. And now we're getting into the 2 last, oh man, these cards are beefy. I am happy about these cards. Drummer is like a reversed priest. Yeah, exactly. Accept our sacrifice. King Ragnar is coming. Let's talk about this card. This card is about as good. This card is on par, but better than. On par, but better than. Ancient Foglet, Archespore, on par with Svalbard Ravager. And I'm using those as an example because those are all units that you don't want to hit. You don't want to hit those units because those units do things when they hit back, basically. So Kidweni Cavalry hits back. Because when you ping this Cavalry, it loses its shield and it gets stronger. And then you can just reapply the shield, which further messes with your opponent's strategy. Sound familiar? Sound like playing Redanian Elite into Weather? Old school Gwent, vintage Gwent. This is a throwback card that is super, super good. This card is actually fucking awesome. But there's more, because we're also going to talk about the damn Sorceress. This card is also good because it allows you to remove a shield and boost by 2. So this card works very well with the Kidweni Cavalry. And why is that flavorful? Why is that flavorful? Any Witcher 2 fans want to tell me why it's so awesome that the Kidweni Cavalry works better when a damned sorceress comes up and disarms it? I think you might be able to figure it out. Act 2. Plus, the Kidweni Cavalry is like, no, I'm good. But I mean, the flavor is there. The flavor is there. Sabrina's curse spared no one, not even her fellow practitioners. Wonder if they're going to change Geralt and Co. If not, they seem nuts with the new unit power levels. Geralt and Co. We'll have to see. Matty Bros, hopefully Lyrian Cavalry is going to be a 4 for 4. Maybe. It would be on par with... Well, what if Nausicaa Sergeant was also a 4 for 4? How would you guys feel about that? I mean, it's good, right? The thing is, Lyrian Cavalry being a 4 for 4 is great for a card that cares about orders, but if you don't have to run, like before it felt you had to run Cavalry because it's just like the best card to run in a lot of cases, but it's not going to feel like that anymore, I don't think. I don't think it's going to feel like that. Totally not the flavor text? Oh. Haplar just read me the flavor text and I credit him for something very, very deep and poignant. Haplar, you're still a wise man in my books. for Cadwin. Yo, the Northern Realms are looking pretty damn good, I gotta say. I want to give a huge shout out to these boys, Austria and Paul Berja. They're coming in and they're bringing us the good news today on Monday morning, afternoon. Also, a shout out to Jason Slama, who is also working hard to make sure that our user experience is always great, that we're always feeling like they're doing good things in the deck builder. They're doing really cool, new, fun things for the game. Jason Slama is like the fun director, and Austria is like the gameplay director. They work together to make fun gameplay. What about that? Paul Bridges keeps giving us the good news. What a video! I love it. Thanks for watching, my friends. This is YouTube. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked the video, show me, tell me. I am moving on the 31st, but we'll see what I can do. We know the patch is coming on the 31st. I will be live no later than the 1st if everything goes swimmingly for my moving day. I am going to be getting my internet hooked up on the 1st of August. I should be live as soon as possible because it's got to be, we got to get the patch going, right? Alternative idea, I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and stream for an hour before we just get into packing because I have to pack my computer. Dudes, it's a bad coincidence. But believe me, we have a lot to explore with the North. I will see you guys soon as possible. I'll try to be live as much as I can this week. It's a busy week for me, but I'm not slowing down. Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a great, great, great day. Keep cool. I'll see you guys later. Bye.